Right, this video is going to be a fun one because I'm about to hike up 1,500 feet up into these mountains to search for a secret and abandoned railway, a railway that leads up high into the mountains to the remnants of a long lost industry. And while I'm there, I'm going to be testing out some new winter camping kit, which is why I'm carrying this ridiculously massive backpack with 20 kilos of kit in it. While I'm at it, I'll give you a little bit of a history of the area, including telling you all about the product from here that has been in demand for 5,000 years. That is 20 times older than the United States of America land, which, as far as I'm aware, on the 6th of November 2024, this river is known as the Bloody Bridge River because of something absolutely terrible that happens here at some point in history. Some of these styles can be in dire need of repair and a little bit rotten, and I feel a little bit more worried today as I've got this 20 kilo pack with me. Now, you might be thinking 20 kilos is ridiculous, even for a winter camp. Well, massively underestimated how difficult it was going to be to carry that bag. So I've got about 16 kilos of camping kit and 4 kilos of cameras. So it all adds up. Where am I going? I've immediately got myself lost. Ow! My old enemy, the gorse bush. Yeah, last time I went camping wearing shorts, I ended up scratched to bits. Oh! Really starting to feel these 20 kilos. The weather's starting to get much worse than I was expected as well. I might have to change my plans slightly. All right, rapidly disappearing behind me is the river quarry, and it is from this quarry and places like this that this came from. This was the most popular export industry in this area, and this is salt and pepper granite. And if you look closely at it, you can see why. You've got these black specks of mica crystals, and then you've got a white and a sort of a gray, which is feldspar mineral or crystal.
Rock collecting, they're minerals.
And then also sometimes, occasionally, not today, you can see hints of translucency, hints of perhaps a sparkle, and that is quartz. And it's the combination of those three elements that make this granite so popular. And this stuff has gone around the world. Ugh. That was a very satisfying thunk. You can find more granite in New York at the Queen Elizabeth II 9/11 memorial. There are huge blocks of granite found 60 miles south in the 5,000-year-old tombs at Newgrange. And if you look closely all around Ireland and the UK, you will find still granite being used today in monuments, stately homes, and even old curbstones. Don't worry, we're going to get to that hidden railway line, but first of all, let's take a little bit of a look around. right up at the waterfall. The waterfall comes down and the river runs right through this quarry, which I'm guessing is why it's called the River Quarry. The grain of the rock, or the positioning of it, is at an angle. It gives you this weird sense of vertigo when you come up to the walls. You look up and you feel like you're falling backwards. It's really weird. Oh, come on. What is this? What is this? Stop throwing banana skins in the river quarry. Ugh. I got a little bit of a confession to make, and it's that when I was a kid, I was actually into collecting rocks and minerals and crystals. I had a little tray, and you got a magazine that, like once a month or something, and then you got a new rock in the magazine. Did anybody else do that? It was such a weird thing. It would have been mid to late 90s, early 2000s. So it is true to say that I have always been this cool. Right, this is interesting here. This is the remnants. I say it's interesting. I find it interesting. You might be bored out of your skull. It's the remnants of a rock chute, and this is a special fun slide for rocks. Let me demonstrate. Here is a little rock. We'll call him Jimmy. Hi, I'm Jimmy the Rock. I'd like to go for a slide. Okay, Jimmy, here you go. Have fun. And that was the tragic end of Jimmy the Rock. We think that up here there would have been big granite crushing machines, so it would have crushed it down into a gravel, the stuff that you might use like under roads, maybe, I don't know, in your garden or something like that. And then that crushed gravel would have been fed down these chutes onto carts. I have no idea what that is. Ooh, made a fun noise though. My head feels kind of cold for some inexplicable reason. So, just about maybe 200 meters from the entrance to the river quarry, there's this little trail that leads off to the left. And you look at it from here, it doesn't really look like it goes anywhere, especially in this low cloud. If it's a day where there's less cloud, you might be able to see sort of a hint shape of a path heading up the mountain, and most people completely miss this because this trail, which was the original road up to the quarry, is now one of the main trails up the tallest mountain in Northern Ireland, Slave Donard. And most people, when they get to here, they're just looking up ahead to the quarry. They don't really look left or right. So the vast majority do not realise that they're walking past probably the most interesting part of the Mourns here. And one of the reasons you don't realise that it's here is that for the first few hundred meters, this just looks like a random trail that goes nowhere. Oh no! No, 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 no.
No, 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 no.
Oh. That was close. It just missed a rock. Oh, I hate making videos in this weather. This is why filmmaking is so slow in bad weather, because you got to keep your cameras protected. So every time you want to do a shot, you have to put the camera completely away, somewhere where it's not going to get any wetter while you're not using it. And then every time you want to use it, you got to stop, you got to take your pack off, you got to get the kit out again. But yeah, I love it and hate it. The start of the train tracks. And I think one of the reasons people tend not to come up here is that it's incredibly wet underfoot, it's really boggy, and they're just trip hazards absolutely everywhere. Do not trust this. If it's bright and green when everything else is brown, do not trust it. Right, okay, we've got to an interesting part here, because this was a wire rope tramway. And the way this worked was you'd have one cart or bogies! You'd have one bogie cart would be going down the hill, pulling the wire rope that goes to a pulley at the top that loops back down the other side. So then the cable down the other side is pulling up the way. So the weight of the cart going down pulled the empty cart back up to the top. So it's quite clever. There was no engines, no motors. It was entirely powered by gravity. Now there's a bit up ahead where a lot of the vegetation clears and the railway line is just on the rocks, and that bit looks absolutely incredible. But I've got a confession to make.
Got another confession.
Thanks, Dave. And my confession is that it's actually the next day. It's actually 11 a.m. the next day, because I did not manage to camp here last night. And the reason for that is I got up to the quarry about 2 hours before it was going to get dark, and the weather was much worse than forecast. It was really low cloud. My cameras, as soon as I go out there, are getting like covered in moisture and I can't really see what I'm doing. I was starting to get a little bit damp and cold, and honestly I was exhausted from having carried the 20 kilos of kit. As I massively underestimated just how difficult it was going to be to carry that bag. I haven't carried a bag over 10 kilos in months. So I ran the risk of getting all the way up to this quarry, finding that there's nowhere to camp up here, and then ending up having to come down this slippy, trippy, dangerous mess with very, very little visibility. So I decided, on balance, I was better to probably stay safe and make a better video. So I hiked back down, slept in my van last night, and come back out again this morning to almost identical conditions, but just slightly better, because I did manage to get some drone footage of the quarry before the clouds came in. So I hope you'll forgive me, but we won't be going and camping the night up here. I do still have the tent with me, and if I can find somewhere to pitch up here, I will pitch the tent. I'll show you the tent and have my lunch before heading back down again. But I'm going to stop talking for a bit because I'm exhausted and there's still a long way to go, but it's going to be worth it. If you do ever decide to try and come up here, word of warning, be really careful, because it starts to get really steep here and the rocks start to get slippy, and the sleepers, they're even slippier. So the ground up here is just treacherous. So you got to really watch where you put your feet. My advice is put your feet in between the rails. Don't step in the rails, because that is like ice. It's so dangerous. See, maybe you can see why I didn't fancy trying to come down here in the dark if I couldn't camp. Ooh, look at this pit. This thing here, is the remains of a tripod crane. So I think the way this would have worked was there's two beams there, and they're hinged and attached to this end, and they can swivel independently. So I think they would have been upright, forming like a V shape, and then I think there would have been some kind of apparatus in between that V shape, and then the really long beam that's away down in that direction, that would have then tilted and sat sort of like that on top of the V, forming a tripod. So you had a base, and then I'm a little teapot. It's like I'm doing the YMCA. So yeah, you would have this tripod crane. That would be very, very strong, not moved. And then the cable that pulled the trams up, that went through a pulley at the end of that beam. Having it elevated like that would mean it's not going to get snagged in rocks and stuff. I think that's what would have happened. And then over there's the remnants of a manual winder. And they think that this wire rope tramway, including the tracks down there, is the only surviving one in Northern Ireland. Which, if you're interested in that kind of thing, is interesting. Let's take a look around. You can see all the rocks underfoot, and interestingly, a lot of these rocks look like they'd started to process them and they've just been left up here like these. See the way these have been sort of shaped like that, so they could have been for curbstones or something that were just never delivered. You can barely see the rock face away up here, but just over here there's woo! There's a bit of a drop down into nothingness. Now, one kind of creepy story about up here is that on the 10th of April 1944, there was a quarryman working up here, and it would have been conditions like this. In fact, it was conditions like this. Really low cloud, really poor visibility, and as he stood working here, he began to hear rumbling noise, a drone in the distance. It got louder and louder, and then he realised it was actually airplane engines that he could hear, and it sounded like the airplane was coming straight for him. The sound got louder and louder and louder. It roared overhead, and then silence. They didn't hear anything else, because where you are in the quarry, there's quite a bit of the mountain up there, Chimney Rock Mountain, so once something would get over the top there, you just wouldn't hear anything. But what he didn't realise was on the other side, a US Air Force B-26 Marauder with 5 crewmen crashed into the side of Chimney Rock Mountain, and all 5 crew were killed. Question is there anywhere up here I could have pitched a tent last night? Maybe. There's a rock there. Oh, can I move it? No, it's moving. It might be able to go right here. This is the Nortent Vern 1, and the way you pitch this tent is quite special. Let me show you. You get yourself to cover, light the fuse here, and ta-da! Right, let me give you a quick tour of the tent and I'll explain why I got it. This is a Nortent Vern 1. It's a 4-season tent, freestanding, as you can see, because I could pick it up and move it, that uses these cross poles on the outside to create the support. Now, obviously I haven't pegged this in, so it's probably not looking super secure, but if you peg it in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there's got 12 pegging out points, so you can peg it out pretty solid. And this thing's probably good for up to like 30, maybe 35, 40 miles an hour winds, depending. If it's going to be super windy, it's designed so you can double pole it. So this sleeve has enough space here. You can buy a spare set of poles and double it up. You got this really big vestibule. There's enough space. There is actually enough space here, just in the vestibule, that I could fit myself with the door closed. Oh, well, this ground is not level at all. The inside here, you have enough space, and I've tried this, for a long, wide mat, and then you've got loads of space down the side. There's about a foot of space at the head, but crucially for someone like me who has a lot of small bits and pieces, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pockets. But not only are there 6 pockets, there are 1, 2 loops for hanging things. But not only are there 2 loops for hanging things, there is a little washing line along here. Ventilation wise, it's got a vent this end and that end. There's your Instagram shot. And something I really like about the door of the tent is it's got 2 And that's brilliant for a 4-season tent because if the wind changes direction, you can then change which door you're using. It's a heavy tent, and this is a tent I'm really only going to use if I'm camping somewhere that's potentially going to be a bit more exposed. So far, yeah, I'm happy with it. I mean, I've only pitched it in my office and here, so this is not a review. I'm just telling you why I bought this tent. Where are my pancakes? I'm going to eat some pancakes and have a nap because that then counts as camping, right? This is Pancakes with Steve, the part of the show. Steve eats a pancake. These are, because I know how much y'all love food reviews, these are apple and cinnamon pancakes. My wife gets really angry at me when I say I can't even say it now. I can't even say cinnamon as synonym. I like to wind her up. She's very pedantic when it comes to pronunciation. So apple and cinnamon pancakes. Those are good. And there's proper chunks of apple in there. I'm going to have a nap so that this counts as camping. Okay. I actually fell asleep. Let's see how long it takes me to pack this tent away. That took 3 minutes. Just gonna be very careful. I'm regretting not bringing a pair of walking poles. Well, I hope you like cloudy, damp, squishy, moody videos like this one, because this is pretty much what our weather is like here for the majority of the time, right through winter, right from the end of October all the way through to about April. Grey, dull, damp days. And in previous years I've avoided making videos in such conditions, which may have given you the false impression that winter here is more pleasant than it actually is, but I've decided to try and embrace the conditions. I think if I'm going to come back up here to camp again, I'm going to do it in dry weather when these rocks will be so much more grippy. Whoa! Okay, this is the sketchiest bit. I think I'm just going to put this camera away so I've got both hands free until I get down to the bottom. I'm back at this grid patch. Should I just try walking straight through the middle of it to show you how bad it is? For educational purposes. My other boots. Well, I hope you learned a valuable lesson today. Do not come up here unless you know what you're doing and you're prepared. Well, that was an ordeal. By the way, if you enjoyed this video and you found those quarries fascinating, really recommend you go and watch this video here about the Norwich quarry in Wales. This place is unbelievable. It makes that look like absolutely nothing. Go check that one out if you like this video. But as always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you on the next one, which I have no idea what it is.